Hello, everyone, and welcome to another bass singer reaction. Today, we are going to be checking out Geoff Castellucci, our favorite bass, his recent version of Shenandoah, which is a very famous American folk song. This song is one I've been listening to and singing since I was a wee child, growing up in Virginia, which is where this song is. It was one of the places this song is very, very popular because Shenandoah River, Shenandoah Valley, where I went to school. Apparently, actually, Shenandoah in this context is about an Indian chief that these boatmen on the Missouri River would sing about. But very misleading. And really until I looked that up, I always thought this song was purely about the Shenandoah River and the Shenandoah Valley. But despite that, it is a beautiful song. I think the first version I heard was an opera singer named Nathan Gunn, a very famous baritone, who I've met, singing this in his beautiful, rich baritone fashion. My favorite version ever so far is Chanticleer's version. They're an all-male professional choral ensemble, probably my favorite choral ensemble in the world, who I've seen twice. And their version of this is absolutely stunning. We actually did their version of this when I was an undergrad with the Madison Singers, which was the top chamber choir at James Madison University. And it was an absolute joy to sing bass too with that beautiful music. But today, Geoff always has innovative arrangements. I'm very interested to see what he does with this very old and traditional American folk song. I'm sure it's going to be wonderful. I've heard great things. If you guys are enjoying this, please like the video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Help me grow it. And if you are really enjoying what I'm doing, if you're finding value in my commentary, if you're learning things, if I'm enriching your musical experience in any way, please consider donating to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And the link is in the description below. And without further ado, let's check out Geoff Castellucci's Shenandoah. Okay, so I guess we're in D major. Oh. So that's a fourth. Ooh. So it's a suspension on the fourth, and he just held it. He didn't even resolve it. So that was very interesting. So I've talked a lot about dissonance and how dissonance can almost be comforting if you know how it's going to resolve. So you're expecting that to go down on G2 in D major. You expect it to go to that F sharp too, but then he just holds it and doesn't even resolve down to the F sharp.
And hear your rolling river, oh Shenandoah, I long to see you away, we're bound away across the Missouri.
Do you see the tears welling? Oh my gosh. Yeah, this song, I mean, if this song is done well, I will guarantee get emotional listening to it. Like I said, it's been a big part of my musical experience since I was a kid. Oh. Dude just starts off with an A1 chest. And it didn't sound too flashy to me. Like, this is definitely a piece that shouldn't be done really flashy. Like, this piece is like, you've got to just trust and honor how it's done. Definitely put your own spin on it, which Geoff is already doing. He created this intro that was all on these hms. That's not in a version I've heard. He is taking more time in certain measures, so he's adding beats or adding measures in addition to extend this piece. So he's already making it his own, and thus far he has really stayed within the construct of all the versions I've heard, which I can only assume are somewhat how they were passed down, right? With, of course, their own variations, or the difference between a chamber choir doing it versus Geoff, the bass singer. But I think he sang 2 A1 chests there, and they didn't sound like, hey, look at me, I'm a low bass. I think they fit and they flowed well enough to where it's still about honoring the piece and not about drawing attention to these crazy low chest notes. He definitely moved it down. Of course, this is what he does. I've never heard a version where the singer starts on a D2, or in Geoff's case, an A1. But it's just, this song suits his voice really well, and there's just a wonderfully smooth delivery to his singing, and less nasality than we will occasionally hear from Geoff. I talked about this in the last video I did for him, where he always prioritizes the smoothness of the delivery, kind of the legato of the line, not the crisp diction so much. And occasionally this would cause his placement to be a little more forward than some people liked. And in some cases I agreed, despite Geoff being really, truly one of my favorite creators alive right now, or ever. But this sounded less so like that. It sounds like it's in a better, more balanced, resonant space than I've heard from him in the past. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to that whole verse again, because it was absolutely stunning. And yeah, Geoff, bravo.
Shenandoah, I long to see you and hear your rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you away. We're bound away across the wide Missouri.
Yeah, so I feel like he's getting more comfortable descending to those crazy low notes, because there's less pressure down there than I've heard. And of course, maybe that's stylistic, because he acknowledges that this isn't the piece to be showboaty on. We'll see what happens later. I might eat my words, but his delivery on these low A's is very much, it's only as compressed and like it's only as spacious as it needs to be to maintain the timbre he has with the rest. It does get thicker and darker than the rest of his voice, but I think that's a necessary product of extending his down into those extreme lows of his range. But to me, it remains very smooth and it remains connected, and of course, very pure chest voice, which is oh so rare that someone can make a beautiful tone on an A1 in chest voice. Geoff is one of the few. There it is again, the suspension.
Shenandoah, I love your daughter, and hear your rolling river. For her I'd cross your rolling
Just that descending bass pattern is one of my favorites in all of music. So I really liked that solo from Geoff. He had a lot of these little tasteful riffs. I use the word tasteful riffing because it's easy to... if you're good at riffing, it's easy to let the riffs get out of hand and kind of lose the integrity of the original melody by riffing too much. People often do this in like the Star Spangled Banner. It's like, it's written a certain way and it's hard to sing it straight up, so people often will kind of do these acrobatic riffs all over the place, almost to distract from the difficulty of just like the purity of singing it straight up. Best version ever, Whitney Houston, like undisputed in my opinion, because she just sings it and like sings the hell out of it. But what's Geoff doing here is what I like to call tasteful riffs, which is where you're riffing enough to keep it interesting and to add your own spins on it, but not without losing the core nature of the piece. I want to go back. I'm just going to listen to that verse again. And I'll talk a little bit more about his vocal technique as he ascends into this upper part of his range.
Oh, Shenandoah.
It's funny, he does a little... I got a comment from a friend about this, wondering why he had to vocal fry this basically an A2. Obviously, he literally just sang an A1 in chest. This is totally just a stylistic thing. Country singers do it all the time. Well, like when they start a phrase. It's like it's a country thing, and it's something Geoff does a lot in his style of singing. Scooping, you could call it. He scoops into notes a lot, which occasionally I think too much. Sometimes it's better when the note is just struck pure. And it can be used, again, as kind of a handicap for not attacking the note straight on. I don't think that's the case for Geoff. I think he does it stylistically. But that's what he does there, for anyone curious. Like, why did Geoff vocal fry that note? Can he not sing that note in chest? He can obviously sing that note in chest. It's just a stylistic thing.
I love your daughter, and he...
Hey, hey. So that's just a nice little tasteful riff. He's not dancing with it all over the place. It just adds a little flair and interest to this section. And again, he is singing true to Geoff nature, which is just focusing on the line. Very little mouth movement, very little crisp diction going on. It's just all voice. He's just thinking all about the voice here.
Feel your rolling river. For her I'd cross your rolling waters. Away, I'm bound away across the wide Missouri.
Why? Just like another little, just a little ornament like that. You can call them ornaments when you take a line and add your own, add a few notes onto it, basically. Ornamentation. Wide Missouri. You know, stuff like that. Just adds a little bit of interest and keeps it from going too stagnant. Now, this song could be done in the most boring way and it would still be so beautiful. It's just that kind of song. But I like that Geoff is, again, maintaining the core, but adding his own spin on it.
Across the wide Missouri.
Wide. To do there exactly. It's just sound. I think it's just a straight run down.
Wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah. Oh, Shenandoah. Now I must leave you where your river. Oh, Shenandoah. I'm bound to leave you away.
We gotta go back. So whenever I made a face, that was because something interesting happened harmonically. The first one was a big, like, chamber ensemble level suspension like he showed in the first one. This. That suspension. And then he changes the chords a little bit and adds this interesting motif there, I think, in the bass line.
Missouri.
Missouri.
Oh, Shenandoah, now I must leave you where your river. Oh, Shenandoah.
Oh, okay, so he puts in what is that? What is that chord though? That because it goes to the flat 7. Oh, sorry, flat 6. Ooh, which could go up into the alien cadence. Ooh, if he does that, I'll cry. I'll just cry. But that wasn't its function in that place. It sounded like it was a function of. It was kind of like a transitionary chord from that 6. There, that's how you get to the Aeolian. It was more like do ba ba do do. That sounds weird in that it's too low. Hold on. Do do. So it's like it just hits on this flat 6 chord for a second and then goes down to a major 4 chord, which in the key of D major is G major. Very, very cool addition, though, and not something in any version I've heard before.
I'm bound to leave you away. I'm bound away. Across the wire. Across the wire. Across the wire. Across the wire. Shenandoah.
And we're into a new key. So he did have an A there before that. He did push it a little bit. He did push it a little. He kind of came out of that very relaxed positioning and opened up the vowel instead of across, across. It was like across. It was more like an ah. And you can tell that's just kind of a function of trying to open it up and get a little more like in the sound. To give a little more resonance, a little more high harmonic content in that sound, a little more cut, a little more buzz, a little more buzz in the sound. So, something I don't particularly think was necessary in this piece. But, Geoff on an A1, trying to add a little more power into that low range. It's just it's a function of the nature of that part of your range, an extreme range. When you do have, if you want to add power down there, you're gonna have to push a little bit, unless you have a voice like Glenn Miller, where like that's super comfortable for him. But if you're in a part of your range that's not comfortable for you, low range, you're gonna have to push. So if Geoff really wants to honk out a loud A1, he does have to push a little bit. So that's just a factor of the nature of his voice and his physiology.
Across the wire. Across the wire, across the wire, across the wire, across the wire. Oh, Shenandoah.
E major.
To hear you far away. You rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, just to be near
F sharp 1. So we have a big key change here. Now there's other things to focus on in the background vocals. it's similar to other covers where he'll alternate between vowels, ooh, ah, for blending purposes, and then he will also mimic or repeat text from the solo in the background on various harmonies. But I'm much more interested in how he's handling the solos here, which is why I'm talking about that more. So I guess he got up to an E4 there. Let's go back and see how high. Far away, rolling river. So up to an E4 there, which is totally getting up into belt land. Pretty, I mean, not super high belt land, but an E4 for a low bass is actually a very high note in chest voice to do in a controlled way and to maintain aesthetic and beauty and comfort there. So it is, I know it doesn't look impressive on paper, but if you put it into practice, if you're a bass out there, try to make an E4 sound really easy and natural in your chest voice. It's not so easy. Not so easy.
You rolling river, oh Shenandoah, just to be near you.
Sharp one.
I'm bound across the wide Missouri, across the wide Missouri.
That is such a better ending for this piece than an E flat than an E1 subharmonic. So much better. It's just so, because if he had dropped to the E1 subharmonic, that would have been really showboaty. So I love that he didn't. I love that he finished on an E2. I just want to go back and check out this final section one more time. Oh, all that harmonic stuff.
Across the wide.
So it goes to the Fee, a sharp 4. Do any would be a G sharp. Sorry, A sharp. Ooh. So he's using that as maybe a 2. What's the function of that sharp 4?
Across the wide Missouri.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. He goes to it's not a total chromatic descent. And then he ends up on the minor, but not immediately. There's a couple steps in between.
Across the wide
Yeah, super cool. So not that whole, it's not like on each note there it's changing chords, so there's a lot of suspension happening, but just very interesting note selections to use a sharp 4, because this is the devil's interval, tritone. So to throw that in, and then to throw in a minor third, but then end up back in E major, very interesting.
Across the wide Missouri.
Fantastic. Well, I've said it all here. Guys, oh man, I love Geoff. He's really a gift to the musical world. So this was a lot of fun. Obviously, this one's near and dear to me. I was legitimately tearing up in that first section. No surprise. Please like my video talking all about Geoff's amazingness and wondery, and subscribe to my channel. Help me grow. Support me as I talk about Geoff a lot more in the future, as he's really one of my favorite creators. And yeah, consider donating to my Patreon or buying a hat from my Etsy store. Everything's in the description below. Guys, thank you. This has been a lot of fun, and I'll see you for the next one.